The Tale of Dymer, translated by C.S. Lewis. Canto number 1. You stranger, long before your glance can light upon these words, time will have washed away the moment when I first took my pen to write, with all my road before me yet today. Here if at all we meet, the unfashioned clay ready to both our hands, both hushed to see that which is nowhere yet come forth and be. This moment if you join me, we begin a partnership where both must toil to hold that clue that I caught first. We lose or win together. If you read, you are enrolled. And first a marvel, who could have foretold that in the city which men called and scorned the perfect city, Dymer could be born. There you'd have thought the gods were smothered down forever, and the keys were turned on fate. No hour was left uncharted in that town, and love was in schedule and the state. Chose for eugenic reasons who should mate, with whom and when, each idle song and dance was fixed by law, and nothing left to chance. For some of the last Platonists had founded that city of old, and mastery they made an island of what ought to be, surrounded by this gross world of easier light and shade. All answering to the master's dream, they laid the strong foundations, torturing into stone each bubble that the academy had blown. This people were so pure, so law-abiding, so logical, they made the heavens afraid. They sent the very swallows into hiding, by their appalling chastity dismayed. More soberly the lambs in springtime played because of them, and ghosts dissolved in shame before their common sense, till Dymer came. At Dymer's birth, no comment scarred the nation. The public's cliché engulfed him with rest, and 20 separate boards of education closed around him. He was passed through every test, was vaccinated, numbered, washed, and dressed, proctored, inspected, whipped, examined weekly, and for some 19 years he bore it meekly. For 19 years they worked upon his soul, refining, shipping, molding, adorning. Then came the moment that undid the whole, the ripple of rude life without a warning. It came in lecture time one April morning. Alas for laws and locks, reproach and praise, whoever learned to censor the spring days. A little breeze came stirring to his cheek. He looked up to the window. A brown bird perched on the sill, bent down to wet his beak with darting head. Poor Dymer watched and stirred uneasily. The lecturer's voice he heard still drowning from the dais. The narrow room was drowsy, over solemn, filled with gloom. He yawned, and a voluptuous laziness tingled down all his spine and loosed his knees, slow drawn like an invisible caress. He laughed. The lecturer stopped like one that sees a ghost, then frowned and murmured, "Silence, please." That moment saw the soul of Dymer hang in the balance, louder than his laughter rang. The whole room watched with unbelieving awe. He rose and staggered rising. From his lips broke yet again that idiot-like guffaw. He felt the spirit in his fingertips, and swinging his right arm a wide eclipse, yet lazily he struck the lecturer's head. The old man tittered, lurched, and dropped down dead. Out of the silent room, out of the dark, into the sun stream, Dymer passed, and there the sudden breezes, the high-hanging lark, the milk-white clouds sailing in polished air, suddenly flashed about him like a blare of trumpets, and no cry was raised behind him. His class sat dazed, they dare not go to find him. Yet wonderfully some rumor spread about, an inarticulate sense of his life renewing. Yet wonderfully some rumor spread abroad, an articulate sense of life renewing. In each young heart he whistled down the road. Men said, "There's Dymer." "Why, what's Dymer doing?" "I don't know." "Look, there's Dymer, far pursuing with troubled eyes a long mysterious row, sighed from 100 throats to see him go." Down the white street and past the gate and forth, beyond the wall, he came to grassy places. There was a shifting wind to west and north, with clouds and healing squadron running races. The shadows following on the sunlight's traces, across the whole field, and each wild flower within it, with change of wavering glories every minute. There was a river, flushed with rains, between the flat fields and a forest's willowy edge. A sauntering place, he shuffled on the green. He kicked his boots against the crackly sedge, and tore his hands in many a furzy hedge. He saw his feet and ankles gilded round, with buttercups that carpeted the ground. He looked back then, that line of a low hill had hid the city's towers and domes from sight. He stopped. He felt a break of sunlight spill, around him sudden waves of searching light. Upon the earth was green and gold and white, smothering his feet. He felt his city dress an insult to that April cheerfulness. He said, "I've sworn this dust heap long enough, here goes." And forthwith, in the open field, he stripped away that prison of sad stuff. Socks, jacket, shirt, and breeches off he peeled, and rose up mother naked with no shield against the sun, then stood awhile to play with bare toes, dabbling in cold river clay. Forward again, and sometimes leaping high with arms outspread as though he would embrace, in one act, all the circle of the sky. Sometimes he rested in a leafier place, and crushed the wet, cool flowers against his face. And once he cried aloud, "O world, O day, let me, and then found no prayer to say. Up furrow still unpierced with earliest crop he marched. Through woods he strolled from flower to flower and over hills, as ointment drop by drop previously meted out, so hour by hour. The day slipped through his hands, and now the power failed in his feet from walking. He was done, hungry and cold. That moment sank the sun. He lingered, looking up. He saw ahead the black and bristling frontage of a wood, and over it the large sky swimming red, freckled with homeward crows. Surprised he stood to feel that wideness quenching his hot mood, then shouted, "Trembling darkness, trembling green, what do you mean? What wild wood, what do you mean?" He shouted, but the solitude received his noise into her noiselessness, his fire into her calm. Perhaps he half believed some answer yet could come into his desire. The hushed air quivered softly like a wire upon his voice. It echoed, it was gone, the quiet and the quiet dark went on. He rushed into the wood. He struck and stumbled on hidden roots. He groped and scratched his face. The little birds woke chattering where he fumbled. The stray cat stood, paw lifted in mid-chase. There is a windless calm in such place. A sense of being indoors, so crowded stand the living trees watching on every hand. A sense of trespass such as in the hall of the wrong house one time to me befell. Groping between the hat stand and the wall, a clear voice from above me like a bell, the sweetest voice of a woman asking, "Well?" No more than this, and as I fled I wondered into whose alien story I had blundered. A like thing fell to Dymer. Bending low, feeling his way he went. The curtained air sighed into sound above his head, as though stringed instruments and horns were riding there. It passed, and at its passing stirred his hair. He stood intent to hear. He heard again, and checked his breath half drawn as if with pain. That music could have crumbled proud belief with doubt, or in the bosom of the sage, maddened the heart that had outmastered grief, and flood with tears the eyes of frozen age, and turned the young man's feet to pilgrimage. So sharp it was, so sure a path it found, soulward with stabbing wounds of bitter sound. It died out in the middle of a note, as though it failed at the urge of its own meaning. It left him with life quivering at the throat, limbs shaken and wet cheeks and body gleaning, with strain towards the sound and senses gleaning, the last, least ebbing ripple of the air, searching the empty darkness, muttering, "Where?" Then followed such time as is forgotten, with morning light, but in the passing seems unending. Where he grasped the branch was rotten, where he trod forth in haste the forest streams laid wait for him. Like men in fever dreams, climbing an endless rope, he labored much and gained no ground. He reached and could not touch. And often out of darkness, like a swell that grows up from no wind upon blue sea, he heard the music unendurable, in stealing sweetness wind from tree to tree. Battered and bruised in body and soul was he, when first he saw a little lightness growing ahead, and from that light the sound was flowing. The trees were fewer now, and gladly nearing that light he saw the stars. For sky was there and smoother grass white flowered, a forest clearing set in 7 miles of forest, secreter than valleys in the tops of clouds, more fair than greenery under snow or desert water, or the white peace descending after slaughter. As some who have been wounded beyond healing wake, or half wake, once only and so blessed far off, the lamplight traveling on the ceiling, a disk of pale light filled with peacefulness, and wonder if this is the CCS, or home, or heaven, or dreams. Then sighing when wise, ignorant death before the pains begin. So Dymer in the wood lawn blessed the light, a still light, rosy, clear, and filled with sound. Here is some pile of building which the night made larger. Spiry shadows rose all around. But through the open doors appeared profound recesses of pure light, fire with no flame, and out of that deep light the music came. Tiptoes he slunk towards it, where the grass was twinkling in a lane of light before the archway. There is neither fence to pass, nor word of challenge given, nor bolted door. But where it's open, open evermore, no knocker and no porter, no guard. For very strangeness, entering in grows hard. Breathe not, speak not, walk gently, someone's here. Why have they left their house with the door so wide? There must be someone. Dymer hung in fear upon the threshold, longing and big-eyed. At least he squared his shoulders, smote his side, and called, "I'm here, now let the feast begin. I'm coming now. I'm Dymer," and went in. The Tale of Dymer, translated by C.S. Lewis, Canto 1.